We're not starting yet.
Rachel, this is a bit battery.
Oh.
We'll have to use that one. Sorry about that. You want to use that one?
Or we also.
Good idea.
Okay, should we go ahead and get started?
Hi, welcome to our meeting. I am Ashley Rayback. I am today the acting chair of the Neighborhood Executive Board for District 2. I'm normally the secretary on the executive board presidency, or whatever that's called.
I know.
But today, the two vice chairs are not able, neither is our chair. They're not able to attend. So that makes me the chair by default. And Hannah is on the board and she's taking notes for us tonight. Just please make sure you sign in, especially if you are a board member, make sure you sign in because we have to keep track of that on the notes. And so we will just start right off. We have Q&A with the Provo City Council. We're not giving them any heads up, we're just going for it. And there are microphones out there, and oh, I'll give you mine, Anne, that you can take around to people.
All right. First of all, I want to just explain that I am not the city council. I am a member of the city council, but my colleagues are unable to make it tonight, so I will answer any of your questions to the best of my ability, and if I can answer, I'll tell you which council member you should call and get a better answer from. So, but I'm certainly happy to answer any questions you have tonight. My name is George Handley, and maybe some of you, or most of you are aware, but we did redraw the district lines in Provo last year, and as of January 1st in 2024, District 2 will be all the way from the sort of the southern edge of Rock Canyon neighborhood all the way down to southeast Provo, and I will be the representative of that district. So technically, right now you have sort of two representatives, Shannon Ellsworth, who's still occupying the previous district seat that was drawn differently, and myself. Her term expires this year, and I will continue on for another 2 years in this term. So that's what's going on. If you're confused about that, and I have mentioned this before. I did used to live in Slate Canyon. I lived on Cinnamon Hills Drive before moving to the Tree Streets area where I live now. So I'm familiar with at least that part of southeast Provo. So. Any questions?
And remember to hold the mic right up, right by your mouth. Yeah.
Right here. Yeah.
I'm Agent Carter. And I know we're going to get to that date on Slate Canyon and so on, but I am concerned that there seems to be a lot of parks being developed everywhere but in southeast Provo. We've got that big 100-acre megaplex that's going in on the west side.
Yeah.
And we've been waiting for a park up in the Slate Canyon area for literally decades. And then that park comes along, we hear about it a couple months, and it's already a done deal, and it's being developed. And it just feels like we're being ignored. And I want to know what the city council is doing, what you're doing, to make sure that our interests in the city are also being heard, so that we can get some of those things in our area.
Thank you so much for that question. That's a really important one. It's one that's dear to my heart. We purchased 29 acres at the mouth of Slate Canyon, sort of the southern area of south of Slate Canyon up to the mouth of Slate Canyon. Which was a piece of property that was potentially developable. It wasn't necessarily my judgment or any other judgment of others. Best place, of course, to develop, but we were worried that it could be. So we purchased that land at the time, and I don't know exactly how many years it goes back. I understand, because I was part of that neighborhood 20 years ago, and I always remember thinking Slate Canyon is an afterthought in the city, and it's been degraded for many, many years, and it needs a massive upgrade. So years ago, there was a plan drawn up for Slate Canyon that included some parks. The problem was the financing was very incremental and phased, so it was very difficult to make it happen very quickly. So only small pieces of that happened: the golf course and the new pavilion and the pavement and several of the improvements. The bike trail went in, but there was no more funding at that point. And when we decided to put $1.2 million towards the purchase of those 29 acres, we knew that on the one hand, this was a great opportunity to preserve more space and to create more parks, but it also was $1.2 million that we were not going to be able to spend right away on developing the parks for that park further. So and the Parks and Rec folks told us that plan was probably in need, that the old Slate Canyon plan was probably in need of an upgrade anyway, especially once we purchased that land. They said, look, we'd really like to go back and redraw that plan up. And so they're in that process right now, and we're very excited about the plans. Christina, one of your neighbors, Davis, has been in some of those meetings. Catherine, your neighborhood district chair, has been part of those meetings. And Shannon and I have been in discussion with Parks and Rec, and they're getting ready to present some plans to the public to get your feedback on those. And we're also in the process of trying to figure out the funding process to make sure that it doesn't get delayed significantly any longer. We feel the same worry that you do, that this would just get dragged on forever. We could come up with a brilliant plan and it could get stalled out. Unfortunately, these things take a lot of time. Rock Canyon, I was part of a Rock Canyon master plan that started about 8 years ago, and we're finally breaking ground on some of those plans. So maybe a longer story, but that big complex on the southwest of Provo actually in part had some government funding and other funds to help with it. It was a sort of somewhat independent project. I think it's fair to say that it didn't significantly slow down other projects in the city because it was of a different sort and kind that the city parks tend to go under in terms of the capital improvement plans. Our Parks and Rec person, Scott Anderson, might be able to answer that question better than I am in terms of those funds. But that part was a very complicated puzzle piece because there was a news park next to Tenth View High School, which was actually a privately owned park. It was lent to the city, and then we actually had to purchase it from the school sell it to the school, and then as part of federal law, we had to use that for another park that was comparable in purpose, I guess. So this is about 6 years old. So this was why there was some financial and political impetus to get that going more quickly than we had thought about. It sort of cropped up very quickly. But all I can say is we're working really hard to make sure that gets done and gets done more quickly. We're very cognizant of how long it's been. But I think you'll be pleased that with the new purchase, there's a lot more opportunity. One of the really tricky things is that we have several catch basins that are part of that property, and Public Works would have to move some of those basins they want to anyway for increased safety. And so we're looking at moving those across the street to the west side of Slate Canyon Drive, and then that would enable us actually to do more park like features. We're looking at children's parks. We're looking at bike trails and trying to figure out which which of those areas would we try to revegetate entirely or at least restore? And which ones would be more like a city park with grass and so on. So, and we're also gonna have to look at the new price tags for all of that. So did I capture all of that pretty well? You came in well. I do. Just a question about what, will Slate Canyon continue to be left behind in terms of park development? And I was just explaining a little bit about the purchase and then our recent conversations to prepare to bring to the public at some point soon. So, what's that? And we're working on funding now. So some of these things can be partnerships between Parks and Rec and a grant opportunity. So that's part of the process that we're looking at. Other questions? Yes, please.
There are several of us from this Bayview Place, and it's just my neighborhood, my house. And we can raise our hands who live there. So it was initially demonstrated as a 55+ neighborhood. So all of us, I mean, I'm not quite there, but most, no, so we purchased under those, conditions and what that was portrayed as. And then we have found that there have been a couple of students that are now in 2 of the homes. And so with that, it has created some traffic issues. And I think, does anybody else want to express the concerns? But yes.
Sorry, there's just lots of cars on the road on either side of the road because of all of the people, young people who are renting in a couple of those homes. So it's hard to not having to drive away.
So I think our contention as a general rule is it was originally for a 55+. We had an HOA that the developer ran, and then they changed it from 100% 55+ to now 80%. And they said, well, until the homes are sold, you don't get to take over the HOA. And so there's been a lot of heartburn about that. These students that, someone purchased a home, and then now there's, students that are there all the time, day and night, and they have, multiple cars out on the street. And it's essentially a cul-de-sac because you come in one way, there's a loop, and then you go back out the same way. And so, we've been talking, and there's, and I think Dave could maybe speak better for it, but there's regulations about safety and how much traffic can happen, that kind of a situation. And so, we're here to express our concern that it was 455+. That's what everybody purchased it under those.
With that understanding.
And then have things be changed after many of them, and we still have, I think, 4 or 5 lots that are still available. So that's, I think, our big concern. Does anybody else want to?
Chair. So this was something that was originally supposed to be on our full agenda with the promise that it would be discussed significantly with the city council member. You are the person. So I would like Dave, if you're willing to tell us more about the situation and like traffic studies and everything, where it came from and all of that. Could you have a lot of background information? This was supposed to be like a significant thing. We're told this would be a big part of it.
I yield the ground.
Be ready.
I will say, Dave has already sent council a very long and detailed email, which I have read carefully because I have learned from vast experience that I need to listen to Dave.
So there's been other emails just between Bill, head of the development and city attorney. I've read those trees. And so I tried to just keep it to a small audience on working out some of the fine points. So I've always been sensitive to PD development because it's a negotiated development where the developer does certain things to get higher density than he would ever normally allow. And that's what we see in this neighborhood. It's zone R16 PD, but the actual lot sizes are not 6,000 square feet. They're like 2,700, it's 0.05, 0.06 of an acre, really, really small. And the PD ordinance, if you read through that, it's like, hey, we want, this is special. We want the developer to guarantee that he's going to see it through to the end and that he's going to build it as approved. And to me, changing the requirement to be 100% down to 80%, letting in people that are not 55 plus, when the sign out front says, you know, this is a lifestyle, it's a community, it's an investment, it's everything you ever dreamed of, and then all of a sudden it's not. And so I'm making the case to the attorney that the city has the right to go after this guy for changing it. Because PED says you shouldn't be able to change it. And then there's the issue of someone that has applied for an accessory level. And Bill knows that, but talking about, you know, how, who's responsible for stopping that, because it really shouldn't happen. The state, as we went to the state legislature last year or so, kind of opened the door for accessory dwelling units virtually everywhere. Provo, not so much. And there was confusion about, well, do HOAs in Provo still have the ability to regulate ADUs? And after rereading the state ordinance, no, they took away the power of the HOAs to do anything about an ADU. So if the city allows it, it can happen. And so we need to look carefully at where the city allows it, because it's just everything east of I-15. You got a problem. Yeah.
I'm sorry. No one on Zoom can hear you.
Oh.
We have to have the mic right up, right there. Yes. Thank you.
That's more like,
Thanks.
Yeah, so the ADU question is important. And the state did say that in any community where the lot sizes were less than 6,000 square feet, the city could say, no, you can't have an ADU, the lot's too small. Well, all the lots on Slate Canyon Drive are 4,000 square foot lots, and in this subdivision, and they're both PDs. This one is even smaller. And when you get the lot size small, you have less street frontage, and then this particular subdivision, Bayview Place, the street was only 24 feet of asphalt, so if you park on both sides, you don't have a fire lane left, fire truck with ambulance, and it just changes the whole character of the neighborhood. It's not that everyone's a good person. It's okay, brought into a particular type of subdivision.
well, the council received your email 2 days ago, so this is the first I heard about it, so I will. I did have a brief debrief on the email exchanges that we had, some of the calculations and the disputes over some of the calculations. And so I'm, you know, and I think all of us on the council are going to continue to monitor where that conversation goes. Because at this point, there may be, of course, a legislative ask out of this, whether it's the ADU question. I don't actually know that legislative options we have. Expertise, our city attorney will be really important on that issue. I think the staff will be open to another traffic study to just make sure that if they're allowed to go with the 20%, does that change the traffic significantly or not? You and I know that that's a big issue. There was a 55+ development right across from Rock Canyon Elementary School, and the neighborhood was very worried about the traffic for understandable reasons. We were looking at either 12 single-family detached homes versus 18 attached, but 55 and older. And the data is very different for 55 and older because we tend, and I can say we, because I'm 58, almost 59, but we tend not, without kids at home, without piano practices, soccer practices to get to, we tend to average less than 10 car trips a day easily, whereas a family of 4 or 5 will average over 20. So it's actually a pretty significant difference when you add up those totals. So I'm aware of the issue. I just don't know yet what, first of all, the numbers were flying so fast in your emails, and I wasn't ready to say, I know there was some dispute about whether or not whose calculations were correct. But I think the smart thing to do would be a traffic study to put everyone on the same page and revise whatever traffic study has been done. But that again assumes that the city doesn't have a right to insist that they can't do 20%. I don't know.
That's where, to me, the language of the PD development makes it pretty clear that once it's approved, you are not going to do anything to increase the density, the intensity of use, or the traffic without going before the municipal council. It's a minor change. You can get that approved by the planning commission. But you want to change something major like he's doing, you got to go to the council. And so I'm just asking for due process.
I think that's a very fair question, and I will make sure that we get it's not only legal but ethical. Yeah, please.
So I thought out on the ADU thing that number one, the state, in the city of Provo, an HOA can do no ADUs. And we recognize that. The enforcement recognizes your HOA rules. So they aren't automatically allowed an ADU, and the HOA can enforce them.
Well, you see the last statement already. So I went into the state hospital into and looked it up, and I also go into the League of Cities and Towns summary of the whole thing. And in the summary, the only thing that the college town got was a break down to 67%, where we could keep 67% free.
Yes, but in those areas, if they're in an area where it's not allowed, then it's not allowed.
No, in the HOA section, it specifically says that HOAs cannot prevent ADUs. And then as a subsection to that, it says, unless it is against city ordinance.
Oh, so you're saying with the signatures that would counter it?
Well, if the city, right now, I think the city law actually allows for ADUs, the person everywhere, depending on if you get approval of your neighbor or whether it's a senior deal. So I made the case that you need to look carefully. And if that's the case, you need to pass a law saying, like, the state would allow you to say that nowhere in Provo can you have an ADU on a lot that's less than 6,000 square foot. And that covers Slate Canyon, it covers this one, the lots are only 2,700 square feet lot. So anyway, this has been an ongoing conversation, kind of a learning curve. And so I went back specifically to look for that.
Well, we're also kind of looking for used to the
And then we will fully readdress it as
So,
a new year.
yeah, so the idea is we understood that we would get data back from staff at for 6 months to reevaluate.
All this kind of stuff.
Yeah, so if there are things that we need to adjust from now forward, we think and this is Patrice McKay, who's the council chair, who's, you know, we do not know why she just spoke so authoritatively and tell me about that issue.
Again, I think it's important to emphasize, you know, we're now looking downstream. I want to point out from at the very top of this origination of the stream, it was, we bought into it and 100% 55 plus. So you're looking at 80 ADUs and traffic patterns and all that. Those are moot concerns
In that issue.
as long as you're 55 plus, and the assumption is that everybody that is there is 55 plus. So then these other issues become moot issues. So my original and biggest concern is that this was what was advertised, this is how it was purchased, this is how it was sold, this is what we participated in. And then to have that change later and then have the developers say, well, we're changing it. Well, it does say 100%. Now we're changing it to 80 to 20. That's not ethical in my mind whatsoever.
Yeah, I need to get an answer from our staff as to why that did not. They were that. Question, which is if even if the procedure wasn't followed properly, if there are now people living in there and don't conform to the policy, what is the city supposed to do? So these are some messy questions, and I apologize. There appears to have been a breakdown in our process.
And the hard thing is, like I agree with you, it's not about be curious. Just this is what you wanted to, you know, change the contract. But HOA laws are really, I friends with HOA, they go through some things. So I've learned that they're already there, and a lot of the developer does keep and choose to keep control of it until it's all gone. And so you have to read your HOA bylaws and see if 55 plus really is guaranteed in there, right? Because he can change it at any time. That's something the city hasn't been involved with, it's a civil suit. So that we like some legality on that, and that's what gets tricky. With HOAs, when the developer's in charge, some of this is the hundreds in charge, so he just by unilaterally can make a decision with his people. Unless and some of them require residents to be on it, and it has to be, you know, a majority vote, and that kind of thing, but it's all those bylaws in your HOA.
Other questions? Yeah.
It's not actually a question, it's more of some information that you may not be aware of. I sat in on that meeting because that word development would somehow affect our neighborhood as well. And as Dave Gardner from Gardner Associates, as the developer, as he was pitching this to everyone, and I don't mean any disrespect to anyone, and because I don't remember the young man's name, I'm going to use the term young single professionals. He pretty much, as Dave is talking, stood up and challenged him to a legal battle. Are you saying you won't sell to me because I'm not 55? And so I'm wondering if there is a lawsuit that we are all unaware of between Gardner and Associates and this young single. No. Are you absolutely sure?
They've actually sold it to another developer.
Okay. All right.
But what I also said, is when we did approve the Rock Canyon project, I knew we couldn't enforce the 55 and older. The only idea was you can advertise it and promote it as such, and you can build it so that it will attract that clientele. But there was no guarantee that it was only. That was 18 units.
Back in YouTube, channel 17, you can find me. I watched it. And yes, Dave Gardner got out there. He was the original developer. And you were actually there. I was there. The question came up about, well, how's this going to be enforced? It's 100%. Because he said, well, it was going to be 80%, but I changed my mind because of various factors to 100%. And the answer was, well, the HOA is just rock solid, it says right in there, so we understand. And so I don't think we got to develop out of it. But the fact that we got to prove that the PD zone, not some other zone. And I'm going back on my PD saying, hey, you promised me, and you didn't meet it.
Yeah, we will look into that. Thanks for. My wife can't figure out why I can't remember what happened last week. So it's a good thing they record these meetings. And I really do.
So I'm saying, so I also was at the meeting. I also was part of like Dave and Vicky, and we talked to like all those needs. We decided what was going to be down there for our neighborhood. That was one of the things that we thought would be really beneficial. We were on board other things which were turned over, so maybe like apartment complexes and condos. This was something that and there was a lot of contention. If you went to some of those meetings, there was yelling and crying and all kinds of drama from all kinds of people. But this was something that everybody got behind. And so it's really frustrating that it has changed, not only for the people that live there, because I would be extremely curious if I was those people. We're attached to the neighborhood. This is my neighborhood. But also as the neighborhoods, we turned out to the neighborhood. It's what after we were offered several different options, a lot of builders say, this is what we chose. This is what we felt like we were given, like a really good developer who would build something really great. And these people paid a lot of money for their houses because they were nice houses, nice places, 55 plus. The other thing that I find to be really frustrating, just having worked with Provo on the neighborhood board or whatever, is like he brought up. So this stuff is already happening. How are you going to backstep it? Like it's already happening. There's ADUs being made, there's students already. So like every single minute that goes by, there are less enforcement of the rules, less 55 plus, and then at what point you just like start evicting people or whatever. So that is my worries. And we are already down a path pretty fast here where it's not honoring what these people have purchased into, what my neighbors have purchased into, but also what the neighbors had chosen for what would be development. Like we feel betrayed, and it's also hard because Southeast Provo often pays the price for the non-enforcement of a lot of the ADUs, of a lot of the housing kind of things, a lot of parking kind of things. And so we as District 2 work with this a lot, right? This is one of our things. It's never enforced. It always gets dumped on Southeast Provo. And so this is just another area that's like part of that. And there's a chance to like stop it while we can. So I feel like we need to do this. We're like at a time crunch. We need to stop it while we can. You know, I'm just worried that the more that happens, the more that continues, the more further down the path we are, and then we're just everywhere else in Slate Canyon and all those places, it's gonna be the same thing. And we're still fighting. How many years? Older than me.
I was gonna say something. I think this ties into when we're talking about agreements. If you look at all of Southeast Provo, look at all of the different developments, Pioneer, Aspen, Sunday, Canyon Meadows, all of those very similar. They were all built very small lots and they don't have driveways, so that they each only are allowed 2 vehicles per unit. That was put in place so that they would be turned into rentals, especially student rentals or young single adult rentals, because as a landlord in Southeast Provo, it's like how I make money. It's very unprofitable to buy any of those units and rent them because I can only, according to my rental dwelling license, I can only bring in 2 cars. So whenever I keep my rental dwelling license, I really cannot target students or young single adults who just don't want to buy it. I have to lower my rent. Yes, because I'm following the law. And so myself and other investors and my group of investors and investment portfolio brought this up to the city attorney and to the that I have made financial decisions over the years, significant financial decisions to keep the law, to watch the condos and the houses right next door to me break it and bring in far more money than I can. That is the heart of the issue. I said, is how can you enforce something anywhere else in Provo and not here? How can you allow these landlords to do this and not us?
Because if a lot of us sort of thinking, well, how can you say to the community when ADUs are being discussed? You can have an accessory dwelling unit, but you have to provide off-street parking. Those, any landlord, even an owner occupied landlord has to provide off-street parking. When we have hundreds, and I don't want that to sound anecdotal, because I do think that needs to be brought up, who are violating the law, it needs to be equal. Equal, not just because we always talk about how, how it affects the neighborhood, but I'm just bringing that up as someone who's a landlord, money. It has to be equal. I want to make the same amount of money as the guy next door to me. And so when you're talking about that, know that what we were told is that any property that does not have sufficient off-street parking needs to be reported to zoning off, right? Doesn't matter. It needs to be reported, and we need to start working as a community, because this is the issue at Southeast Provo. I have personally reached out to young single adults because I know that we've talked about it. This is going to hit the people who already live there, at hundreds of people. But it does need to be addressed. And so here was my question I was going to ask is, you talked about giving data from the staff. And I love the staff. But I was wondering if you would consider an audit from District 2. Meaning, when you get a report that says this is how many zoning complaints have been reported, this is how many have been closed. We would like to bring our data and say we live in the neighborhood. We can show you pictures, we can give you names, we can give you addresses, we can give you 10 years of data, and you will see a very, very different pattern than maybe what's being given by staff. Not the staff, we're against staff by any means, it's just that they have a different pattern, right?
Well, they only look into the people who don't know about it.
Yeah, and I know you've been there for a long time and you've been dealing with those issues for a long time. The zoning staff of the city was significantly understaffed for a long time. And we also hired a new zoning person, Scott Johnson, who's much more responsive. He gives us a monthly report on zoning enforcement. So this is a great time to
Yes, he's awesome. We work with him. And he needs to do that to you. What we wanted to do is to say, we turned in this many addresses. Scott Johnson went and did his job. This is where they work. This is how many days it took for it. This is how many days it took for it to re-happen. This is how many days it took for it to re-grow. This is how many ADs actually turn into a duplex. This is how many times we have to continue to report it. I only say that because I'm not anti-growth, I'm not anti-ADU, I'm not. I just think that clear information might give the council a very different idea of what's going on. And I would love just to be completely honest. Let's say we would love to have an audit with the council. Within the next couple
Yeah,
months.
I would strongly concur with you on that. I don't know what the limits are in terms of how much we can get accurate data. This is a constant issue.
We would love to get.
Do you know exactly how many people are receiving?
We can tell you when it was sold. We can look at our reports because we save all of it. Every time we report something, we save that confirmation number. We can show you a better view to say, you might look and say that it's closed, but I can look and say, tell you and say, well, it's been reported 4 times, in the past 6 months. So clearly,
Just saying, I want to qualify it. It's just to say that no staff is often we can't burst into the door and confirm that we're being told that there are 4 people in the house and we're going to clarify. That's we don't want to say.
no, I'm not saying that by any means.
But if you have that kind of data on these, let's look at it and compare it with what the zoning office is doing. Let's see what we can do. Totally not.
A lot of these landlords train their renters, and they're lying and look and say, it's so hard to deal with that. Like you can't train.
The real estate agents do it too. I see all the
The
time.
realtors buy, they say they're a legal ADU, they see their duplex and not, it's a huge issue. There is a number to report, realtors do not.
Yeah. It's a huge issue in district.
Yeah, you guys have the housing that
definitely fosters it more. People have targeted, and the investment groups a lot of times are houses.
So I have a question. You talked about doing a traffic study. Now, one of the things that is concerning when you talk about the invention is the idea. If you don't have the ability to put fire trucks in there, emergency vehicles, and this is a 55+ community. And I, hope right now all of the neighbors are healthy, but as time goes on, that won't be the case. We're gonna have problems. They have the ability to put emergency vehicles down, there's real concern. The units are almost all built out right now, and if there's, I wonder if the traffic study will examine safety in terms of the ability to put emergency vehicles down there. And the parking situation that drives this concern that we can't do. Is there something that we can look at to do that and then drive a parking policy there that would make it where we can be sure that when there is a problem, that we can have neighbors taken care of.
We'll have to tell the traffic people. Another idea that we would have this policy, right, this development.
It's a loop, so basically a cul-de-sac.
When you have a specific area like that, where it is in a loop, and if you have the majority of people that want parking for vehicles, lobby for that too, or only you guys can park on it at each house only gets, you guys make the rules. Either you can do no street parking at all, or you can decide what you want. Okay. Yes, I did that. That happened in the Foothills, and we did that there. And it was very effective to keep the students from parking area and
Just to clarify, you apply for it, before the council, staff does an evaluation, they make a recommendation.
That's not a HOA. That would be a city. It would be a city thing,
Yeah.
and if they want to be a specific area, and make sure development is a specific area, and get consensus, but that's
It's a question of resources for the city. So why it comes to us, to make that decision, financial and time, and staff. I just wanted to, make sure you understood that it's not just, we get it, we get it.
Yeah, the signs involved, there'd be parking force will come by, like we do with Foothills, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I have seen in some cases, the city saying that staff recommending against a project that was too tiny. So if you can get sort of a larger area, and it's like resources, then it becomes a question of resources versus size of the project. But that doesn't necessarily address your question. If this traffic study reveals any sort of safety issues, I think that's going to be very revealing to us. Certainly.
So you will include that in traffic study then?
We can ask. Yeah, I think normally the traffic study they're talking about is figuring out car trips per day and vehicle volume, but the related issue might be pertinent to public safety. So we may have to ask.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point, and I don't think it's just the students alone. I think even families, when they have visitors come into the area, it's very easy to clog the streets. And so there's no auxiliary parking, no parking other than in the street right now. And
It's education week right now. So.
yeah, I would use the term, but it's not. So
Yeah, what is their name for education week?
So that's the thing, is there are some vacant lots right now. Would it be, if the traffic study revealed this, can we perhaps have those vacant lots turned into parking so that you can park and not clog the neighborhood? But my other question is how soon can you do a parking study?
We don't have to have here to give us the answer to that, but I know they're talking about it, so there's already a traffic study, and this is a sort of follow-up adjustment to the
George
study.
and I will email them.
And we can communicate with them. find out. That it's out.
Somehow we keep focused on parking and whatever it is. Again, it goes back to the original thing, that it was approved at that meeting, that it needs to be this kind of neighborhood, and everything else is downstream. So to keep talking about safety and traffic evaluations like that, you need to go back and look at the original thing, and then everything else is secondary.
Well, that will definitely be our number one question.
That's our third time trying to illustrate and be very straight. And what would be a time frame on it? Is.
Well, we will be sending communicating with staff in the next 48 hours, so they have tomorrow off, so it won't be until Monday that they get the message. But hopefully we'll have something at least to report to you about their recommendations or how long it would take. We'll say they're wanting answers.
But again, to me, that is where the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, eighth, ninth, and 10th priority should be on that.
How many are being?
There's 2 homes that I know of.
But there's also
Empty lots.
several that are currently being built. You don't really know what's happening with who's that have been sold. Some of them may end up in the same.
Another frustration is that until the developer turns the HOA over to us, we can't, we know that.
You can't write your own rules. Yeah.
We can say 100%, we can, just talk about parking, but not until we are in control of the HOA, so that's what's here.
That is a weird thing. Yeah.
Correct.
We just had a quick question online. Who is the current developer?
You're right.
Oh, okay. Oh. Okay, and what is the name of your?
So we have an agenda that I am supposed to enforce.
Okay, are we done with our
Yes.
Q and
so
A?
you let the- I mean, okay, yes, that's fine. And then also, are you guys going to, our meeting goes until 8, would you be here after for people to talk to as well? Okay. And then just one, before you say, I just wanted to say, it's not just our neighbors and friends who live in that place that are concerned about this, but it's the neighborhood attached to it, who voted for this and whatever, who are also on their side and feel very sad and betrayed that it was not going as we had originally voted for and decided for and chosen, because there were lots of plans and this is the one we chose. And so it's not just our neighbors and friends who are facing this issue, it's the people actually in the neighborhood above it too. So they're not alone. This is like all of us. With that, no one want to talk? Great.
Not coming out lucky. My name is Bobby. Brad Larson and myself on this project. And this project was a 100% 55 plus community. And we intended to stay that way. One person has to do. And I assigned every one of these photos, everyone who signed the closing. And I can tell you that we had one person, and it's 52 years, address that with someone. We've got 2 things in play. It's a 55 plus community, and then we have this apartment issue. And I can tell you, I'm good at we have met with our attorneys, and we have talked to the HOA, and we're sending out letters. Because it's not anything that we do. So we understand the traffic. I talked to Bill about it yesterday. And we understand the traffic issues, and we're trying to address them because that's number one. That was never approved. However, the houses were sold in good faith. They were sold to people who were 50. Each one of those persons is allowed to stay. We were disclosed to us that this was the next intention was to put their student in there, somebody who was from their family, and then to invite a bunch of people. That's all. with us, and I think with the city too. And they talked about this just 2 days ago. The other thing we have is a little more. It's a three-pronged approach. You've got the city, you've got the state of Utah, and you have the federal government. You have the Fair Housing Act, and you have some issues that collide. And we sat down with attorneys and we discussed. It's still our intention, 100%, to sell it 2050. Gentleman, Mr. Peterson, I believe, you brought up the comment that you don't know about the other 4. The 4 houses that are being built, right? Everyone is well. They haven't had real estate agents come before to give them approval to sell to 45-year-olds, 38-year-olds. We do have a right to tell them that. And the federal law protects us under those mandates. And we've told multiple people now. There's been some heated discussions about how can we stop this? Blah, blah, blah. We don't listen to it. We know we're fine. So it's always been our intention to sell to 55 plus. One individual did buy a house and he's 52. And it's him and his wife there. And I think in the end, well, I don't know. Yeah, and we don't know. That's, yeah. And so everyone else knows. It's our intention. So 4 more homes, all over 55, we have 3 lots left. Those 3 lots we intend to sell to 55. We can, without crossing the bridge of discrimination, we can tell people no. We're not that right, but we've done that. So we could, this neighborhood could have been sold, if we would have just done wild cards and wanted to sell this neighborhood, I would have sold out 2 years ago. The market was hot. So I hope you know that we're not here to make it a problem for the city, the state, or anybody else, or the neighbors. More importantly, the folks who bought into the neighborhood. We will address the issue with renters. We have it. Everyone knows when they purchase a home, they can't have a kitchen in their basement and have renters there. And so there's a lot of things we again, we're on the phone with attorneys. Just last week, we sent out demand, or I guess seeking the skills for review. And the attorney sent out to these individuals and we're practicing. That's hard for us. I hope they understand that we're trying to address these issues, and it's never our intent. I don't think this matter has to go too far. We can talk about how we can comply with a number of things. So
Thank you.
Hopefully that helps.
I appreciate you coming, and I think they probably want to talk more to you.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate you saying that. I think that's clarifying, and I want to ask more questions. We do have to go on with our agenda. So let's do that, and then we will adjourn right at 8 p.m. and you guys can talk as long as you would like. Okay? Yes? Okay, so next, and just before we go on, we're having a transportation discussion on Wasatch Elementary School's out of school board members. Perfect. Meg? Not Meg. As you're leaving, or if you think of something, please write down ideas for topics for our next meetings. We want to address what's important to you. This is obviously something we thought is important, but we don't know.
Right. Song?
It's something like retailers.
Okay. I can see Taylor from way up high. Okay, thank you for putting this discussion on your agenda. I will admit, it came to me a little bit late, so I don't necessarily have something set planned, so I can discuss, if you guys have questions, we can start there. Or, this is information from Vern Kiesler, who is our city engineer, helping with their safe routes to school. I do know there is a little bit of correction to this. Before Vern came on end of the last school year at Wasatch, I attended some community council meetings and met with their safety committee, and they have been discussing the safe routes to schools. And Gordon had been at some of those. So he's just aware of kind of the brainstorming, the problem points, and things that the neighborhood around the school site are concerned about and are interested in looking into, so we can make sure that kids can get to this new school site safely. I think, let's see, oh, is this the one that you sent?
We just added the pictures.
Okay.
And let me know if you need to show your pictures or how you want to do this.
Okay, so let's just talk about 820 North, right? That's, does anybody have questions about where the new school is? Everyone see it? The big, they are very big walls, and we are going to work with community council, the PTA. We can talk about, you know, those tall ones on Locust and 820 ways of landscaping and things that we can do to help the schools built. And I think once we see the school, as we see the school going up, we can see how it's actually made. So 820 North, I think the school community council, there's concerns just about speeds on 820 North and Carson North. So we have Oakmont, which wraps up around the back of the school, and it turns into 820, and Carson will down that pretty quickly. So I do know, talking with Gordon back in the spring, there was discussion about some raised crosswalks with some lights. That was something he felt that would be able to be put in place. And I think, you know, discussing where will those be best located that students and kids would use and families. I'm going to pull up my notes real fast. And if while I'm talking, if anyone has a question, feel free to. Oh,
So if you can give us a little more orientation to how the school will sit and how students will enter the school.
yeah.
That would help me really understand where these crosswalks should be located.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So those strawberry walls, right, on Locust and 820. On top of that is going to be the parking lot. Okay. The school is kind of twisted on the side a little bit, right? And there's going to be from the north side, the north side is where kindergarten goes. Yeah, let's just go. Thank you. I'm sorry,
So it's no problem.
Thank you so much.
I can probably simplify this further. My main question is, students arriving from Oak Hills, will they be entering the school from the east, or will they have to go around the school to the west?
If you're up here.
Yeah, so descending, like if they're coming down from the Y.
Yes, so they're gonna come down Oak Cliff.
Exactly.
Okay, Oak Cliff, what's gonna happen here? The school district, we will be putting a sidewalk in here. It will be protected with dirty barriers or something, because, right, these cars also. So they will have, if they're coming down here, they will come here. So they will enter it kind of on the south side, I guess, because they're gonna drop it. Does that make sense?
Okay.
And then obviously this front is Locust right here. There will also, the school's gonna be, let's just say this is the side. It's gonna be kind of twisted, if I move it, kind of sits like this. The ground level, the first floor, you enter right here, offices will be on that first floor. And then this side over here will be the second floor, which will be at this ground level. And that's where the kindergarten area will be. And I know that's not necessarily what you're asking here. So I think Oak Hills will be coming down this way.
The previous slide, I think,
Was the
perfectly
previous slide? Was
Oh,
that
yeah.
one better?
Okay.
Thank you, Rachel, you're awesome.
But also, if I'm thinking right too, Oak Hills, I guess would you come from you could come from the north.
You could, but
Even
my
if it would be not like that.
expectation is all of the students will more or less descend down 1450 East and then come down Oak Cliff.
Yes.
And so where Oak Cliff intersects Oakmont,
Yeah, it's Oakmont.
yeah, right there, that little T at the very top of the
Yeah.
property. Like, to me, that is the place for a raised crosswalk
Cause
Okay.
that seems like all the kids that live north or east of the school are going to be coming down that road.
Yes.
Which one is it?
Okay.
The farther one.
Oh, this one here?
No,
That's the one.
Yes, you're right.
yes, that's right, you're
Yes,
right,
that would be
I'm, that's
Also where
correct.
they're gonna most likely, they're not gonna want to turn right and go to the school, away from the school. When they're there, it's gonna be like.
Yeah, so that's where all of the neighborhood, the Oak Hills neighborhood kids will be coming to school. Is at that intersection.
That's actually very helpful, because like on my list, I don't know if we thought about raised crosswalks there, but definitely have that as an area of concern. But I do think there's some sidewalk issues too.
There's no
One
side,
PPP is missing.
I was told there would be a sidewalk on Oak Cliff on the north side.
And that may be for by the city, that wouldn't be the school
I
district.
think the city may be doing that. It was our city engineer who mentioned that. Was, well, it was, earlier, it was Robert before he left the city, but, we might want to
I think
confirm
yes.
that because I had raised the issue with him. That's an incredibly steep street and in the
Yes.
winter, it's going to be pretty treacherous and the last thing you want is them to be walking on the street. So.
Yes, I absolutely agree. I'm just looking, yeah, and look on the St. Francis School, proposal they do have here. To do high visibility crosswalk, ultimately path. That's his I know when we talked about the crosswalks down here on the 22 as well, down this side, but yes, I agree, that's an area. And it's helpful to hear from you that kids will be walking. And one thing that I still is not clear to me talking to our business administrator and our transportation department is what type of busing will still be, because right now there is busing at the current Wasatch site, but it's because of safety, not, and the boundaries are 1.5 miles. That's like the distance where we get state funding for transportation. So the question is, I think it's in the Round House area, and am I speaking to the area well? It's kind of treacherous to get to the current school site, and I would imagine it's going to be the same to this site. So will busing be available? I think when I last asked, it looked like there was only a couple students maybe still when we're projecting to that school year, but I'm not super clear. So, yeah, great points. So I guess now you can kind of see, you can see kind of the entrances to the school. This will be, I think, the bus turnaround. And obviously kids can enter coming from the north right here as well. Which also area of concern, if you come right here, these are the picture right to this last bike up there. These, and there's couple intersections on Apple, and Cherry and Apple and Locust and Apple, which are just really wide crossings like that. Right, and it's like some of them don't even have the curb drops, right? So you don't have ADA access on the curb, so you have like a stroller, or you have a kid on a bike. That I think would be important too. So about maybe getting some bulb outs on those places to kind of trap the calm right there. That little trail, yes. So it's not going to happen. From the district end, there will not be any access right here. So that would drop right here. That there's not going to be a gate access there. And talking with community members, I think there was also some actual use. What's the word? Appropriate use, but who owns it and like who's really technically supposed to use it. I know kids use it. And there was some great reasons to like make access there because kids don't have any interaction with cars. So there was real reason to I would consider. So Old Willow is like a dirt lane, right? That kids use, many people use, right? And then it could draw kids into that side of the school. But from our end, when I talked to our business administrator, the expense and just the grade from here down to the school is pretty decent and like getting your steps. posed a challenge and then talking with. When was I last? I asked Kate about it and he said yes. And then I was personally on that. So yeah. But I also, it all live in. Okay, some more questions?
The neighborhood chair, Ruth Eldridge.
Yes.
Said as of a few hours ago that they were still working on the ownership and the overall thing. And that the neighborhood is looking for a 2024 grant. So I don't think all the questions have been
Thank you.
defined yet.
Okay.
As of a few hours ago,
That's
it was still in process. And she asked that the conversation continue into our October meeting.
Great.
So looking forward to 2024 community grants.
Right, I think she's an improvement.
Yeah.
Correct,
Yeah.
that, but I agree with that. And I think obviously that is all great, and so what would happen, I think kids using that, they would just drop down.
The sidewalk.
Yeah, they would, yeah, absolutely, so, which, there's still, reasons to consider them not having to go past more intersections, these are right, so I took bike up here to just check out. This is Oakmont, where there was sidewalk. You guys see it. But we can maybe see the other ones, Rachel.
Yes.
So these are like, right, this is like, into the street, it's just a curb, right? So my mom's on a stroller, taking her kids to school. That's just hard. And so if you just look, just how wide these streets are to get across for little kids going to school, there's just safety concerns, cars, going fast, and if we can pull those out. And I know, talking with the city, right, what Gordon said in the spring was that once the school opens, those type of things, it may take like a traffic study to see what kind of traffic use is happening there.
And this is just showing those bulb outs where it kind of comes out, so it makes the road more narrow, and it also naturally slows down the traffic.
And yes, and by narrowing it, right, when you have your kid, look how it's so much shorter to cross than like trekking here and then all the way there, so. Jennifer, yeah, you come up, Jennifer.
First of all, I want to thank Meg. So we go from school board together, and she's been so involved and just gotten like feet on the ground and really been involved in the process. So we've been fantastic with that. I just wanted to explain real fast how the school community council process works with the safe routes. So there are parents elected every year at every elementary school to be on the school community council. So if you are a Wasatch parent, you could apply to be one of those people this year. And they work with the principal and the teacher representative on there, and they discuss safe routes. And every year, they're supposed to look at crosswalks and, do we need any improvements in our area so our kids can get to school safely? And then they discuss it together, they vote on it, then they submit that through the principal to the district. The district tracks all of that and then shares it with the city. It's due to the district by November 1st. And then they take it on to the city, and then the city does studies, and then that's how they then plan what they're going to do with their budget. It starts July 1st of the following year. So if you're not on school community council, you can still talk to the principal, you can talk to Meg, you can find out which parents are, and being a part of that process will really be effective. And as Meg said, I think they're going to look at what can we do before the school opens, but then there will still need to be steps that happen after the school opens as well. But I think we're on some of the bigger ones. But yeah, if you have any other input, that's something to figure out.
Yeah, and thank you, Jennifer, for explaining that. The recommendations I was looking off of are from the community council last year. So, hopefully, do you know, Jennifer, since the school's not going to be open until after the start of next school year, they can still submit this November for the next school year.
Yeah, yes, good.
That will work. Thank you.
Okay, so we try to be careful with this employees' time of the city. They like to go home at the end of our meeting. So in interest of that, if you are a 55+ community member and would like to talk to trees and maybe the guys who purchased it, if you guys want to go out in the hall and do that right now, you're welcome to stay to talk about our other very interesting things on here. We would love for you to stay. But if you would love to go, but the city does like to not have us stay too long because they also want to go home. Rachel's probably been here forever. She likes to go home. So if you guys would like to continue that in the hallway right now, we will continue with our stuff in here. If you'd like to stay and listen for these other things, we'd love that too. I understand that this is severely hampering the population of my meeting, but still, I would love for you guys to get your issues addressed while we've got the guys here who can do something about it. And count, yes. Okay, but if you want to go out now, you can, or you can wait. Because we're going to start talking about something else. Thanks, we loved having you at our meeting. Come again. Okay, let's do the Slate Canyon and everything next. Please do that.
Yeah, John Bunderson.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm standing in for someone else, so I'm just trying to.
I'll use this one.
Oh, is that the one that's dead? No. Just make sure it's right up there.
Good evening. Thanks for staying around. I'm John Bunderson with the Provo City Parks Recreation Department. We have some exciting developments happening right between District 1 and District 2 at Rock Canyon Trailhead. Improvements that are moving forward on a master plan that was developed between 2017 and 2019. Excuse me. The funding is now available and the construction documents are being finalized for us to move forward with bidding out the improvements. Let's go next slide. We'll get a little bit more detail in a second. Go next slide. So this is some of the history of Rock Canyon and the trailhead there. It's got an extensive history, 700 million years ago. Yeah, video of that. I think that would be fun, but I don't. If you go up there, you can see the exposed rock, which kind of tells its own story of that history and how it's up there. Moving through the 1800s, 1900s, a lot of incredible projects have taken place up in Rock Canyon and Wasatch Mountain behind. And the trailhead serves as access to all these fantastic explorable areas east of Provo City. So let's go one more slide. We'll continue the timeline. We've got in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, a lot of preservation efforts to preserve public access to this area and to make sure that the beauty is preserved in this area for both the rock features and also the natural inhabitants of the area, birds and wildlife that live in this area. So third from the right, we've got the creation of the Rock Canyon Trailhead Master Plan, which brought together a lot of stakeholders, both from federal agencies that are adjacent to us, to the preservation groups, to neighborhoods, a lot of open houses, gathered a lot of data that produced the master plan document that improves parking, improves transportation facilities, restroom enhancements, and an overall improved trail system right there at the trailhead. So the last several years, we've been working on gathering funding for this. To bring a project to fruition, it does cost something to deliver. And we have now secured a little over $3 million from partners from Utah County and from the Office of Outdoor Recreation from the state of Utah and from the Rock Canyon Preservation Alliance, who are continuing to fundraise to bring this project over the finish line for funding. We will be putting it out to bid in the next few weeks
construction hopefully will start in this fall with some of the parking enhancements that we're looking to do. So other construction can take place and still allow public access to the area through construction activities. So be looking for that construction going through 2024. I would like to conclude it at the end of 2024, but we'll just see how things come together. It's a sensitive area. We want to tread lightly, making the improvements without negative effects to the area. Some of the things that might carry on in 2025 are some of the trail improvements. I expect in 2024, all of the parking lot improvements, building improvements such to take place. But as we have volunteer groups come up, we'll be making some of these trail improvements that are quite exciting. Let's go to the next slide so we can see the master plan. So here's the parking improvements. The roundabout is by others. That'll be by our public works counterparts as they get their funding together. But the northern parking lot and the expanded southern parking lot will be taking place as part of this project. Improved restroom facilities, improvement on the amphitheater, and we'll have a small practice rock climbing wall for younger children with the fall zone protection around it. So if we've got somebody who wants to learn how to do some bouldering, they can do that without full scaling the rocks that are at the canyon level on that fall. And then these rock loop trails are some of the exciting things that we're adding to the area that will have some interpretive information. Talk about some of the plants, the geology, and the animals that can be found in Rock Canyon and up in the federal U.S. Forest Service property. The blue one doesn't blue. So the blue at the north is the current stream channel that was running during the runoff this spring. This here is part of the aquifer storage and recharge project. If you were up there last season in 2022, you may have seen a pilot program that brought a pipeline down to here and distributed some water down here and free flowed through. That's part of the public works project to put water back into our underground aquifer. And so it's planned as part of a completely separate project by public works to bring a new pipeline up through this area and discharge water here. I'm understanding in fairly regular increments that there'll be a stream channel there. That's my understanding. So we've incorporated that in the master plan to make sure that it doesn't overflow. We've got a catch basin here with an overflow to put it in the stormwater. I have another sliders in there. Oh, this is renderings of the new restroom replacement. We will have 2 family style restrooms as well as higher capacity men's and women's restrooms. So, and it's also going to be built for year-round access. The current facility was designed for seasonal. We kind of insulated, put some heaters in, made it work. This is actually designed for that year-round access. Yes.
That restroom, you're saying more capacity for men and women. Is that equal square footage or actual usage for men and women?
From the current facility, it will be more fixtures, more water closets in each, and then there will be separate family style restrooms, 2 of those, in addition to the increased capacity in the men's and women's.
So I guess what I'm asking is there an equal number of
Stalls?
water closets involved, or
Yes.
I need to see more women than men? Because women have to get undressed to go to the bathroom and men don't.
There's more than the existing substantially. I think there's double the amount of the existing facility for women's stalls.
Okay, and I'll talk to you later.
You're not a woman, you're not understanding my question, I'll talk to you and explain more detail.
So those are the improvements occurring at Rock Canyon Trailhead. There was an inquiry about things going on at Slate Canyon. I think George handled that very well at the beginning. There's some wheels turning. That, you know, you can see from that timeline earlier, these projects turn a little bit slower than we'd like, but we are setting aside about $1 million a year for Slate Canyon park improvements, and we hope to pair that with grant funds as they become available to have even more money to put into the project. So,
I should add one thing to that. You know, one of the things that really helped with Rock Canyon is we had this public-private partnership. And the Rock Canyon Preservation Alliance was able to raise money to purchase acreage and put it under a conservation easement. As you mentioned, that's still going on to try to get us on the finish line. So one thing we have started to talk about and want to explore with the Slate Canyon area is whether or not there are citizens in the area who would like to do something similar. I know Christina's been an absolute hero in getting sort of men and women hours put into, you know, trail enhancements. A lot of these projects we can save money on or not spend it at all when we get citizen help. But another way for citizens to get involved is actually raise money, and then we can do sort of a partnership with the city. So I can only say that in the case of Rock Canyon, that has helped accelerate things, and in this case, we made. You know, if we don't get any of that, we'll still go forward and make it happen. But if there is a public-private partnership, my sense is that we can accelerate it. You know, part of the case of Rock Canyon, there was this crisis, you may remember, when somebody owned a deed, they were ripping out rock, and it was like, you cannot do that to Rock Canyon. And one of our state senators got involved, and suddenly there was all this focus on Rock Canyon from the whole city. And Slate Canyon has always been sort of the lesser known younger sibling of Rock Canyon. People don't realize that it's just as beautiful as Rock Canyon. I think it's more beautiful in one sense, and that is that nobody goes there. And that's what makes it so beautiful. It's also steeper, and that's why a lot of people avoid it. But we do need to get some public focus on that, not just as a neighborhood asset, but as a city asset. And hopefully with improved signage at Rock Canyon, you know, there's a wonderful hike. It's a very rigorous one, but lots of people do it, where you can go from Slate Canyon to Rock Canyon. So if we can kind of connect that community and get people seeing that Slate Canyon matters as much as Rock Canyon, that there's no reason we have to choose, and if we choose them both and want to enhance them both, and maybe with the momentum at Rock Canyon, people will see this is possible at Slate Canyon too. I hope that stirs a hunger in the community for that. And I just want to reiterate what I'm saying. I'm 100% fine. There's very few things that matter more to me than this, so it is a high priority that we keep this moving forward. We've got great minds in Parks and Rec. We've got a lot of great experience, and this is complicated too because it's a Parks and Rec and Public Works coordination, because as I was mentioning, the drainage basins are there, and so, you know, you're getting bureaucracies to talk to each other to know it's the easiest thing in the world, but we've got some experience now, and it's working well, and I think we'll work well with Slate.
we want to make sure we've got the right steps happening at the right sequence. We wouldn't want to go in and build a beautiful park that has to be impacted by detention basin or other infrastructure that should have gone in first. So we're coordinating that. It's being talked about, designed, and we're looking at funding mechanisms to bring this to fruition. That Slate Canyon. The other property was Foothills Park. There are not any current plans moving forward there other than maintenance. I did talk with our maintenance team today. They are clearing some, they're working with some volunteer groups to also improve the trails that are on brush and keep that a nice place to also come and visit. Some steep trails in there as well, but some nice little paved sections that are already available there. But that take any more questions? Thank you so much.
Okay, we have our last two things. We'll do it quick, so we'll be out here as close to 8 as we can. We have discussion on Slate Canyon Drive, and then we'll hear from Ryan. He's still on.
Yeah, so, yeah, and so the parking, here we go. So we just got statistics about the parking. Those are online. I can put them on the Facebook and also in the newsletter, just kind of talking about 116 citations were issued. I need to know exactly what people's concerns are about parking on Slate Canyon. So then that way I can have the correct people come to the meeting to discuss with you. I'm not sure if you just want more parking enforcement or a parking program. I need to know from the residents what your concerns are. So then that way at a future meeting, we can address them. But this was just a report they gave me today about how many citations and kind of where they were at. And that information is online if you want to look at it closer.
Rachel, can you tell the residents one more time how to access this data?
Oh, yes. So really simple. So when you go to the Provo City website, so provo.org, under Community Neighborhood District Program, go to District 2. That's you. That will bring you to your website where we have information. If you go down to this calendar, so today's the 24th, and if you click on your meeting, it'll bring up the agenda, and these are all links to the documents you're seeing at the meeting tonight. And so you can always refer back to them on this calendar. And then if you just click on parking, it'll bring up that parking report. And we'll also have links to it in the newsletter. So make sure you're subscribed to the newsletter, and that's on that sign-in sheet if you just put in your email address. We'll get that. Okay, we will.
So where can people contact if they want to tell you who to, like, their
Yeah.
issues? Do you have any contact for us?
Right, they can contact a board member, they can contact me, or Breen at provo.org. If you get the newsletter, if you reply to the newsletter, it'll go to me. So that's an easy way to do it there.
Okay. And then lastly, we want to hear from Ryan.
Hey.
Who is another executive board member.
Hi, are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Hi, in the interest of time, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I appreciate you putting this on the agenda. This is related to parking, Rachel, and if we're having a parking manager and parking enforcement person come at a future meeting, there's some issues in our neighborhood related to parking, and this issue that I would like to probably discuss, I think would be good, and maybe we don't have to go into that in this meeting. I have a question though. Am I able to share a picture or not on my screen with Zoom?
Yeah,
you can see it.
Hang on, let me.
It's just one picture.
Okay, I'm going to make you a co-host. And then you should be able to, there should be a little share button.
Yeah, I have a share screen here. So I'm just going to share this picture. It's just a curb that's painted. Are you able to see that?
Let me share my screen. Maybe this will work. Yeah, because now I'm trying to share your screen, but we're not seeing it. So it's a curb that's been hand painted red, is what it is.
So in our neighborhood, and it sounds like around the city, there are issues of parking. You know, some people want to be very liberal with parking. That's a public road. Anybody should be able to come and use it. Other people see that there should be time restrictions, which is the case in a small portion of the Wasatch neighborhood between like Fur Avenue, Kiwanis Park, 900 East, and a block east of there. there's some time restrictions there. Historically, because it's so close to BYU that students would fill up the streets with their cars, and that was inconvenient for homeowners and such. And so there's some people that, want to be able to use the street. There's some people in the neighborhood that are adamantly opposed to anybody other than homeowner parking. And that's what is troubling me here. And then there's people in the middle that would like to see an exception for a homeowner. For example, maybe a permit kind of program where somebody buys an annual permit from the city to be able to park in front of their house, or to have a family member come and stay with them for a week without having to worry about moving their car around every 2 hours. And so that is an issue. Maybe we can talk, and you provide me with the name of Sandy Bushio parking there, that maybe I can do some preliminary, research, talk to some neighbors here about opinions and things, and maybe we can discuss this at a future meeting. But in the interest of tonight, I wanted to point this out. There are some neighbors here that are so adamantly opposed to outsiders parking in the neighborhood that they've gone so far as to put up signs. In the past, somebody put up signs on the city street post that said parking for residents only, without the city's authorization. I noticed a few days later, those signs were removed. But here a couple of weeks ago, somebody put up some other signs, and I don't know if these were sanctioned by the city or not, but it says something like BYU community, please do not park in this neighborhood. And there were 4 or 5 of those around our neighborhood bolted to the street signs. And at that same time, somebody took it upon themselves to paint this whole curb red. And it's enough section of curb. When you get up close, you can see that it's a very sloppy hand painted job, but from a distance, it looks as though it's red zone, prohibited parking, which I personally find very troubling, that a neighbor thinks that he can just block off, I don't know who it is, but just block off a whole street because they don't like have cars next to their home. And so I did contact the city code enforcement, I don't know, what's called division or whatever is down there. I did not get a response. But this is something I found troubling. I think there needs to be a middle ground. I think there needs to be a discussion about it, a study about interest of these parking exception permits, and maybe some middle ground here where it's not no one can park or everyone can park, but hey, we got to share the street, and those that are willing to pay a little extra might be able to park their car there for more than 2 hours, or have a family member come visit and not have to worry about getting a ticket. So those are kind of issues going on in our neighborhood right now. I won't take any more time, but maybe at a future meeting when there are parking personnel there, we could take this up a little more in detail.
That's great. Counselor Hanley, do you know if a resident is just hand painting curbs red or putting up their own no parking signs, is that zoning? Is that public works? Do we just call 311 and?
I'm guessing it's zoning, but I would call 311.
Okay.
And tell them what exactly is what's happening, and say, I want to be connected to the right person. But feel free to follow up with me, and I can call staff also. I always offer this just as a secondary thing. You call 311, it's supposed to work. Usually it does, but if for some reason there's some confusion on their end, please contact me and I'll follow up and call the right people and say what kind of an infraction is this, and who needs to be, we don't need vigilante.
Appreciate it. Just a comment, if I went down to the new Wasatch school and painted something red there, I'm sure I'd be charged with vandalism. And at some level, this is not appropriate. This is city property. It's not for someone to just go out and paint. And so I think it's not something the city should just turn a blind eye to. I think it should be, not only discouraged, but a reprimand for it and an effort to clean it up. I don't think that's something that's permissible from a resident of the city to do that.
Yeah, please follow up with me. It's ghandley@provo.org, and I can make sure we get that to the right person. Thanks.
Hey, thanks for your time.
Thank you for coming to the meeting. If you have anything
Let's recognize Michael Barber, our newest
Michael Barber.
member.
Hi, you're our newest member. Thank you for coming. You want to stand up? Hi. Okay, so if you have anything you'd like to add for the agendas for upcoming things, it's always great, upcoming meetings, it's always great because then Rachel can get the right people here and it's so helpful. I've learned so much from the people that have come over the months. It's been great. Thank you for coming. We appreciate your participation. Let us know if you have questions and we will see you next time. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.